They could not have planned this any better. After a dominant game against the Detroit Red Wings, Islander fans are calling the big trade of the summer a huge steal, as Emil Heineman has emerged as a legitimate top-line player for the New York Islanders. We're going to discuss it on this episode of Islanders Digest, and also talk about a player who's going to be making his NHL debut, which I am super excited for because he is from Long Island. And no, this is not James Higgins. We talked all summer about wanting James Higgins to get drafted by the Islanders. Of course, he went to the Boston Bruins, but now we have another Long Island native ready to make his NHL debut, and this is going to be really exciting as the Islanders look to continue to build on momentum. After a really slow start to the season where they lost their first 3 games, the Islanders are now above 500 and looking to really gain momentum in a division that is wide open, and a big reason for that has been Emil Heineman. We talked about this during the Noah Dobson trade. This was a player at first that a lot of fans did not know about at all. He seemed like a throw-in piece, but Matthew Darche emphasized that he really wanted to get this player back in return. And early on, looking at the stats, it is easy to understand why. He had 2 goals last night against the Detroit Red Wings, which puts his season total at 5 goals. In addition, he has an assist. And I have to make an apology to Emil Heineman because early on, while I have been impressed with his play and I wanted to see him get more minutes for the Islanders than he got in Montreal, early on I was a bit critical, saying that, well, he does not belong on a first line in the NHL. I felt like he didn't quite earn in the preseason to play with Bo Horvat and Drouin, and you know what? I was completely wrong. This player fits this line so well, and out of the 4 lines for the New York Islanders, I absolutely love the way this line is playing. It feels like Bo Horvat has a new energy to him, with Heineman forcing himself to get the pucks and really allowing Horvat to focus on the offensive side of the game, while Drouin is also really showing his playmaking. I really like this line. Really, there are a couple lines I really like for the New York Islanders. That third line deserves a ton of credit after that game against the Detroit Red Wings. And yes, when you win 7-2, every line is going to look pretty good. Unfortunately, Matthew Schaefer did not get a point, so his streak is over, but still, he had a really incredible game. But I just want to highlight the way Lee, Pageau, and Holmstrom are playing. Holmstrom finally had a game that hopefully will keep him out of the bottom of this lineup, because he does not belong in the bottom. At the very least, he is a third-line player, and a very productive third-line player at that. And playing with Lee and Pageau, he really showed that. Pageau had another strong game. He's just a stable third-line center where, really, any line that has Pageau on it is going to be a decent line, but really having players like Lee and Holmstrom really highlights the best of his game, and Lee is now at a point per game pace for the Islanders. And really my question with the Islanders, with how they've been playing this run and gun hockey, is can they keep it up? Clearly, they have the ability to score goals in bunches, but my big question now is going to be, is there going to be consistency? And looking at the lineup, the one question I really have at this point is the second line, because I don't think Duclair has quite been productive, especially compared to other players in the line. But perhaps this is a thing where he's just not hot right now and other players are hot, and it's going to flip around. But so far, Bo Horvat 9 points in 7 games. A lot of good things to see from the Islanders' top of the lineup. And Emil Heineman has been a huge part of that. And what I love about Heineman is, no, I don't think he's going to be able to score 50 goals in a season like he's on pace for. That is absolutely ridiculous. But this is a player who is showing more than just a shot, which we've been talking about for a long time. The Islanders have been looking for a goal scorer, but the issue with a lot of the players they've brought in to try to be that goal scorer has always been like this one-dimensional player that doesn't have much else other than the shot. That was a big problem with players like Oliver Wahlstrom, like players like Kiefer Bellows, where when the puck wasn't on their stick, they were useless. And what I love so much about Heineman is he also brings that physical element to his game, and he also has the speed. And one thing I think is not getting enough credit, yes, he has a good shot, and he has been open to take that shot, but I'm also noticing now that he's pretty good at finding the opening spots to get a good pass so he can get a hard shot on net. That seems like it's a very basic thing, but we see a lot of players struggle with that. And Heineman, with the speed, a lot of times these fast players, it's really easy to just crash the net every single time. He seems to know when to slow up to make sure he's as open as possible for a clean pass, and that is really exciting. Again, I love the way that this player goes into the corner and gets pucks. It's clear to me when it came to that trade, this was a huge part of it, and if Heineman can be perhaps the bigger piece in this trade, it is going to become, I wouldn't say a steal, because I will say, Islander fans, we were frustrated with Noah Dobson. By the time he was traded, I was pretty much done with Noah Dobson and his turnovers and his frustrations. Look, he was very good. He's been very good for Montreal. He's exactly what this team needs. I'm not going to sit here and talk about how much we dunked on them getting rid of Noah Dobson. Look, Heineman has been what the Islanders needed, and I will say Noah Dobson has been what the Montreal Canadiens have needed. I think this is a win-win trade for both teams. Where this trade is looking great for the Islanders already is, yes, they have the two prospects who are developing quite nicely. Some people will criticize Victor Eklund for having only 5 points so far in 12 games in the SHL. Got to remember here, that is the SHL. That's a pro league. The fact that Victor Eklund is even making his way up there and playing consistently is very impressive. And keep in mind, too, with Victor Eklund, if you're looking at these games, he's doing so much on the forecheck. I have no doubt the points are going to come because his team already loves the way he's playing out there on the ice. Similar to the way that Heineman is really tenacious on the puck, but I think Victor Eklund just brings another element to that level. Doesn't quite have the shot Heinman has, but in that sense, Victor Eklund's playing so well. And then Kashawn Aitchison is a point per game in the OHL as a defenseman, already has 6 goals. Very impressive there. But with Heineman, if he can be a big piece in this trade, similar to the other two, rather than what we thought where he was kind of just like the extra piece to put it over the edge, this is going to be a huge win for the Islanders, considering they've needed goal scorers like this. Look, Montreal has other players who can put the puck in the net, and that's probably why Heineman fell down the lineup. But you look at the Islanders, we've needed a player like this for a very long time. Barzal has always struggled to have scoring wingers. In the past, one thing we talked about all offseason was I really questioned if an Islanders team can work with Bo Horvat and Matt Barzal separated, because in the past we've really seen that when they're not together, there's just not enough offensive pieces to put things together. Heineman so far has been a huge piece for the New York Islanders in the sense he's able to put up the puck in the net, playing with Horvat. He doesn't need Barzal on that line, which allows them to have 2 scoring lines, which is what you need to play this style of hockey that Patrick Waugh wants to play. And again, another note about that trade that doesn't get talked about enough is if the Islanders sign Noah Dobson, they're not going to have enough money to sign Jonathan Drouin. So really, this line could not exist if it wasn't for that move. A great move by Mathew Darche and really underrated in terms of what the Islanders are getting in the short term. Yes, we've all talked about this trade, about how like 5 years down the line, it's going to look really good for the Islanders when this prospect comes up. It's already looking really good, and a big part of that too is just the way Matthew Schaefer has stepped into this defense and provided that offense where you don't really miss Noah Dobson as much as you used to. Now, one area you have missed Noah Dobson has been on the more defensive side of the puck. The right side of the defense has been a little questionable, and the left side has not been much better. But now we get an update that Marshall Warren will be playing his first game for the Islanders. He was called up before last game. They were going to bring him in without a practice, but now, as you can see, he practiced with Tony DeAngelo, with Boquist stepping in there to really take a couple reps. We now know from Patrick Waugh that DeAngelo is going to be starting this game, and alongside him is going to be Marshall Warren. So the Long Island native is going to get a chance to play. And if you're watching this and not just listening, take a look at this picture. This is Marshall Warren wearing an Islanders jersey when he was a little kid. And I have to say, I really miss these orange jerseys. I know it's not a popular opinion because it's just orange on orange and orange. Perhaps it's just because I was younger when this jersey was around for the Islanders, but this jersey really has a soft spot for me. And it's funny, it goes against a lot of my opinions when it comes to what I think makes a good jersey, but I really enjoy this old Islanders jersey. Maybe would like to see them bring it back in a little bit of a throwback here. But now, Stefan Rosner talking about Marshall Warren stepping in to play this game. This is what Marshall Warren had to say on being able to play for the team that he rooted for when he was a kid. He says, "It's hard to describe because like I was driving here, I was a little kid at Iceworks skating in that little Islanders program. Who would have thought?" This is really exciting, and hopefully Marshall Warren has a chance here to prove that he can provide a little something different. Now, I don't know how long this opportunity is going to last. Again, Alexander Romanov is supposed to be back in 2 games. We will see if that happens. Also want to note here, if you're looking at this lineup, Shabanov will not be playing, so he's going to miss another game here. That's something that is a bit concerning, but hopefully he is back after that. But I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about Marshall Warren making his NHL debut? And what do you think about that trade now that we have a little bit of context that we've seen Emil Heineman play for the Islanders? Again, keep in mind, this is only a 7-game sample size. We're not going to really know who won this trade for a long time. Really, I don't even think it matters from the Islanders' perspective what Noah Dobson does in Montreal. To me, it was clear that Noah Dobson was never going to be this dominant all-around defenseman for the Islanders, and to get three pieces, including one like Heinman, that can help you right now, it's already looking like a win for the Islanders. And again, it might be a huge win for the Montreal Canadiens as well. Both teams can win a trade, and early on, it's looking like that's exactly what happened. But I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm your host, Patrick Nilan. Catch you on the next episode of Islanders Digest. Let's go, Islanders.